right, everybody, welcome to our Monday Night Success Zone team call. Thanks for jumping on this. We have an incredible special guest with us tonight, Mr. Calvin Wright, all the way from Austin, Texas. Calvin, welcome to the call.
What's up, dude?
Doing great, man. Thanks for doing this short notice. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you, brother.
So, Calvin, I do have to brag on you a little bit. Calvin's done incredibly well in the business. Hall of Fame producer more than once. Agencies exploding. Um, Military background, Army Ranger. Like Calvin, I really just want Calvin to talk for the next 45 minutes. I don't even think I should ask you any questions, but I've always been really impressed by how you go about this, the integrity in which you operate, your ability to bounce back, your perseverance, your ability to keep a good attitude, and just really, the tenacity to keep going. And so this is Calvin, everybody. So Calvin, for those that don't know, just give us a brief background, like where did you come from and how did you end up with FFL, and we'll take it from there.
Thanks for Well, first off, thanks for having me on the call, Trey. You guys are definitely in good hands. There's nobody else better in the business than Trey Honeycutt. So again, thanks for having me. And looks like you guys have an awesome turnout. So I appreciate you. But the intro was pretty fire, bro, dude. Thanks. I appreciate that. Not needed, but appreciated. But a little bit about me. If you guys don't know me, I was in the military for like 7 years, from 18 to 26. Fresh out of high school, right into the military. Uh, Literally nothing to do with sales at all. It was all manual labor, running around shooting, jumping out of airplanes, like the army stuff. Like there was nothing computer related. They didn't know how to use a spreadsheet until I got into this business. So when I say that anybody can do this with the right attitude and the right work ethic, it's true because I'm living proof of that. And when I got into the business, or when I was getting out of the military, which I think a lot of people can relate to, not just military, but like coming from another job, anything besides sales, right? I was getting out of the military and they were all like, "Hey, there's nothing else out there that's better. You're gonna fail. You know, like healthcare and all this stuff." And I was like, had my blinders on. I'm like, I'm done here. I'm gonna do my thing. So I ended up actually getting into a, a production supervisor job, which apparently is the only thing you can do whenever you have a combat arms background when you get out of the military or be a cop. And I didn't want to do that. So I got into a production supervisor role literally in Austin, Minnesota, not in Austin, Texas. And believe it or not, it was a town of 5,000 people, and there was nothing there open past 6 p.m. And I quickly realized that maybe the grass wasn't much greener, and they were right. And so I was having second thoughts, and I was probably making 60 grand a year, like before taxes. And I was like, this sucks really bad. I hate this. Working 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. every night. Just not very happy, not making really the money I want to make, and not even in the location I really wanted to be in the first place. And so I remember I went to high school with Zach, and I literally was like seeing all these posts online. I'm like, what is all this money? Like, what is this leaderboard stuff that they're posting about? Dudes are posting the commission checks. And so I reached out to Zach, and I talked to him once in the past before, and I just didn't really understand insurance. I didn't really understand commission. I didn't even really understand sales and how it worked in the first place. And he kind of did a brief explanation, and I don't think I still understood it, but I knew that there was money to be made. And I was like, if this is real, I'm gonna buy a boat and all this stuff, right? You get all these ideas of what I could do with all this money. And so that was back when we were in the field. And I remember having like a really serious conversation with them. I was like, hey man, like if this doesn't work, like I can't just uproot and quit my job. Like I need to have income. I'm not willing to risk that much. And we came up with a plan. And I was like, I will get my license in 7 days, which means I will get up at 6 a.m. when I get home at 10, 11 p.m. midnight. I'll study the course for 1 week straight and just do it, when I'm already not working, which I did in 7 days. And I failed the test a few times like everybody else. And then I pre-planned PTO. So I was like, I'm going to use every single vacation day, sick day I have, according to the corporate world. And I'm going to leverage that into a 2 week period. I'm going to go 2 weeks all in, Trey. And so I bought leads because I knew that it's what I need to do to be able to make money in this business. And then he helped me with some leads on top of that. So he matched my level of effort in the beginning. And then I went out there and I fumbled and stumbled on my feet and slipped in the snow and did all the stuff that a new agent does, but was able to come out and sell like 10 grand or 16 grand my first couple weeks in the business. And I called Zach and I was like, hey, dude, I think I'm gonna stay at my W-2 job. I don't know how to quit. I've never quit anything before. And he goes, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I just don't really know what to do. Like, I've never done anything like this. And he's like, dude, you like made like $10,000 in your first few weeks. You made 5 grand a month there. Like, doesn't make no sense. And I was like, you're pretty good at math, man. That doesn't make any sense. And so I quit the job and then literally the next week broke the lease, put all my stuff in the U-Haul, went down to Texas and just literally went all into the business and just kept the ball rolling. And I was talking to someone new in the office the other day, Trey, and it was like, what do you think is the number one thing that helps a new agent be successful? And I told them, I was like, it literally is just consistency, showing up in the right uniform with the right amount of leads, or just showing up even in the right place with the right amount of leads and having the right work ethic. It's 50% of winning here. And that's all it ever was the last 5 years, is just literally just being consistent and not quitting. There was a ton of days I wanted to quit just like you. And there was a ton of days that were good. And there was a ton of days that were really bad. And it was just really all about showing up.
Amen to that. Um, so give us some stats. Just as far as that 5 years, like how did it look the first year, second year, personal and team wise?
Yeah, so I had a hot start with the team. Like, I think in the first 6 months, I was sitting around 100, 150,000. That was really just from posting commission statements online and grabbing other Army buddies and just warm market people. And then first year in the business, sold like 520 grand or something. And then I've done Hall of Fame personal 4 times, agency Hall of Fame once. And to be honest with you, like the first 4 years, it was a roller coaster team wise, but my personal production was always level. Like I never had an issue with hitting 40 plus K a month. It was just something that I always put first, and then the team was building part of that. And I was a firm believer in like just if you led from the front, regardless of what everybody else was doing, if you just showed up every day, then nobody could argue the fact that it doesn't work. And so my model going into the business that I carried over from the Army was that people are going to come and go. But if I always put my production first and I always lead from the front, no matter who I bring in the business will follow me blindlessly because they can't argue the fact that I'm putting up real numbers. And so that's like been the model from day one is like, you can give advice to anybody, but the right people will come to you for good advice, and the right people won't argue with you on the advice that you give, rather it be raw, unwanted, or whatever the fact is. But like the numbers are the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. And so, like my first year in the business, like yeah, we went to 150 really quick, but I also floated around 150 for a few years because I rode a roller coaster of people in and out of the business, and a lot of them were really good people. It just was bad timing, I think. And with the transition from in-home to virtual was tough on a little bit of people, but even myself, it took me like a month to figure that out. But like Trey, like in the beginning, it was really just about like showing up. Literally, Zach would call me. This is funny because we were talking about this like 2 days ago. Is he would call me every single Sunday, my first 5 weeks in the business, and be like, "Hey, did you buy leads?" And after the third week, I was kind of getting sick of him calling me every single week to spend money on leads, and so I just would naturally just do it, which built good repetition in the beginning. Because as a manager, especially like between like 100,000 and 500 grand, like the most simple thing to do, because you probably don't have that many people that at that phase of the business, is to literally just call everybody Saturday and Sunday and be like, hey, what's your lead plan for this week? Or just following up, make sure you got leads for next week, so they're not calling the same old leads that didn't pick up or didn't sell the first time. And
Hmm.
when we started doing that, naturally all the production went up, and I was like, wow, that's just so simple, because it happened to me in my first 5 weeks in the business. And after the third week, people get the point, and they're kind of sick of you calling and saying, hey, did you buy leads? Because they already know it's the right thing to do, and they just were avoiding the call. So that's a simple little trick from like 150 to 500, is if instead you're not micromanaging, you're just literally setting everybody up for success. And that's a simple 10-minute phone call. Hey, let's jump on Life Center. Let's go to this lead vendor's website and let's buy the $1,000, 2,000. I would say 2,000 is really the standard. But if someone's like, brand new, I would say like start 1,000 to 1,500 is more comfortable and more reasonable. Obviously, been in the business for a long time, so like 2,000 is really just the watermark at that point. But like someone that's brand new, I would say let's get you at least 1,000 and let's get the ball rolling, because I know off 1,000 you can 4x it. And if you 4x it, you keep 2 grand every 2 weeks, and I don't think you're going to be that mad making 6 to 8K a month on your first month.
Right. Dude, that's so profound. I mean, it really is the simple things consistently. And it seems like people overcomplicate it and things like get in the way. It's interesting because I was eating dinner with Andrew Taylor last week, and He said, Trey, you remember how every Sunday I used to call everybody on the team? And I was like, yeah. And dude, his team was doing like 1.5 million a month at that point, and he was still doing that. And I'm just like, how do we get away from doing that? You know?
Yeah, it's like
Um,
a brick.
well, so tell us this, Calvin. So the personal production stayed high.
Yeah.
When did the team really start to grow for you? Like something must have changed. How much are you guys doing now?
We do like 1.5 a month right now.
Okay.
And it changed last year really. Like we went to 150 year one, we stayed at 150 for like probably 24 to 36 months, and then we were at like 350 to 500 for a year. And then last year we did like we were banging down like 800 a month, and then boom, right to 1.5 over like a 60-day period. And through each of the phases, it's easy to get a little bit complacent because you get a little bit more money. But I work in the same office with Zach, and so I know that he's doing about like $25 million a month, and I see him every day here. And so my goal was, even at like 100 grand a month, was just beat him here every day and just stay later. And I think naturally that will kind of like play its course on, if I'm being productive at least, I'm not just sitting here doing nothing. But like the biggest change to go to a million for me, or even 1.5, was working with the top 20% of the people. And because before, when you're like around 150, like 350, which I think is like the danger zone, because you're making some good money, things are going good, but like one thing could accidentally get in the way and you could run over a deer, and like the whole your whole thing's ruined, right? So that's like the
Right.
danger zone for me. And a lot of people get stuck in the danger zone. But like when I stopped working with everybody that wasn't really doing anything, or just kind of a lot of lip service stuff, or just like the bottom 80% of people, and I only started working on the people that were doing most of the production, which is 20% of the people in the business, my production grew like month over month over month. It was like big changes, like noticeable changes. And I started only supporting the people that were showing up every day and putting in massive amounts of effort, and instead of trying to save everybody from drowning. I was only going to help the people that were willing to swim with me, for lack of better words, because I knew that if they were going to be down to roll with me, that if we were going to try out new leads, or if we were going to like try a new recruiting method, or whatever the message was going to be that week, or the message was going to be that month or that year, that if it worked, then we all got credit for it. But if it didn't work, we all like knew, like, hey, like this, we need to make a change quick, and not going to sit there and blame and point fingers. We're like, hey, we're doing this together. And if you can get like a few people doing 40K a month, 50K a month, or whatever, like, your guys' standard is, and you just like keep feeding them people. So I wasn't like getting like unreasonably busy, but I was also like, I can't take every single person direct and be able to take all of, the overrides, for back of words. I was like, hey, the guys that are doing and girls, like Alethea is one of my top legs, and she's a female, is like crushing it, is like, hey, how do I support these individuals that are, number one, doing the right activity, which is showing up every day, selling 40K a month? How do I make myself valuable to them to be able to build and sell at a high level without taking away from their personal production? And that was me just like feeding them recruits, and like, hey, here's all these recruiting appointments, or here's these people that reach out to me on Instagram, or here's some extra leads for your team. And that's where I started like kind of tapping in and tap rooting to like the top 20%. Cause I would be like, all right, this person sold, we would do, I'll have my staff like send me every single Wednesday, like the new agents that are over 5 to 10 grand, and then anybody that's over 30 grand a month. And then I was individually just reach out to them, be like, hey man, you had a great week. Like, what's going on? What'd you do differently? What's your schedule like? And I'll just like tap into like people that are like doing really well. And I'll get feedback, because I'm not like selling in the field every single day anymore. I know what's going on inside the organization in terms of leads, dialing, like what's actually like, the stuff that makes the money. I'm actually figuring out what's going on. So that way I can share that good news with everybody else on the team and be like, hey, this guy over here, Trey, this guy, Jace, he's been here with 8 weeks. Last month he sold 45K. You should reach out to him and see what he's doing, because obviously whatever he's doing is working, and he's doing really well at it. And then I'll put them in a group chat. I'd be like, hey man, this guy really needs some of your help. But like, I would only be connecting people with like that's showing up and doing the right activity, that maybe not be killing it just yet, but it has potential to connect them with someone that is doing really well. And then that's what makes them feel good, and it builds them up, and makes and fills their cup up, because they're getting recognition, but they also feel good about helping somebody. In the beginning, I'll keep using Zach's example because I just work really close with him. But what he would do, because he wasn't really, when I got in the business, he was kind of on his way out of the field, and so I couldn't really call him and ask for like underwriting questions, because he'd probably just hang up on me. but he would be like, call the carrier, figure it out. So he would be like, hey, here's Easton, here's Jake, here's all these other people that are doing really well. And I could text them and be like, hey man, like I'm going through the same stuff as like these guys are going through. Can you help me? And they'd be like, yeah, for sure, I got you, bro. And that's how we are able to like grow and build and like kind of build the younger leaders up to go from 500 to a mil, was just be able to work on the top 20% of people and just get their needles to move, which moves the whole groups, honestly.
Yeah, and getting them to work together and be
Yeah.
sort of reliant on each other. That's powerful. Um, so a few things. You talked about the standard. I mean, what is the standard in your agency and how did you raise it? Was it always the same?
I think that I heard this stat once from Sean and it kind of stuck with me. It was like if you're selling less than 16 grand a month, you're slowly dying. And that thing scared the heck out of me. Like I'm looking at the leaderboard, I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm seeing these people, and I know they're buying leads, and I'm just like, dude, like they're selling less than 16 grand. Like I got to figure out how to help them. And so in all of our team calls, we do 3 calls a week. We do a Monday's objection training, only objections. That's the only thing that we're doing. And then Wednesdays we do script training where we only train on script for 20 minutes. And then Thursday I'll do like a team call for 15 minutes. And I'll go over numbers, updates, and then I'll go over like anything that anybody wants to touch on one-on-one and like schedule one-on-ones. But what we talk about like mostly like on the team meetings is like, hey, this guy's selling this 40K a month because that's really what our standard is. I know for sure he's spending 2 grand a week on leads, and I know for sure he's working 6 days a week from 8 a.m. to probably like 7 to 8 p.m. depending on time zones and depending on if he has a family or not, right? And when I look at all the people in our group that are over $40,000 a month, I talk to all of them individually because I talk to them all every day. I'm like, hey, has anything changed? What are you doing differently? No. Everything's always the same every single week. And so that just goes back to like the ground rules and the ground basics is like it really isn't that deep. It's just that some people's aren't willing to do the work to get there, and some people's aren't willing to spend the money they want to be able to get to what they say they want to do. And I was talking to this dude named Austin this morning that's been with me for a couple of years, and he's literally like this all the time. And every like few months, he sends me a thing, dude, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and this. And today I just called him and I was like, dude, like we're going on year 3 of this. I really don't believe you. So if you actually believe in yourself, what I would love for you to do is actually hop on the Discord today. And how about you just work a full day? Just do one full day. And instead of setting all these lofty goals and saying, I'm going to do this, this, and this, let's just start with a day's full worth of work. I will match whatever you got on leads because I like you, and I will help you the best I can. But dude, like, let's stop talking about all these goals because you're not going to do them unless you just start with day one. Like, let's just do this every single day for the next 5 days. And if you commit to the full 5 day plan, let's look at goals. But like, let's just not even think about that until we get through 5 days of doing the same stuff. And at first he was like, man, that's kind of messed up. And I was like, dude, it's not really, because at the end of the day, like you can put all this stuff on a whiteboard, but unless you start putting stuff into action and you show up for yourself every single day, it doesn't matter what you tell me, dude. It doesn't matter what you tell yourself because you need to show up for yourself if you actually want to make this work for you and your family. He was like, man, thanks for being honest with me. Like nobody's ever told me that. And I was like, dude, I'm not trying to like be rude or be mean. I'm like, I just don't want to see you get hurt. And right now you're hurting yourself because you're not showing up and you're saying you're going to do this stuff and you're not. And so like the people that are kind of floating like sub 16, like just look at your schedule. And what I love to do, especially in the beginning, was like, okay, I have these things that I need to do for my family. I have soccer practice, or I have to do school, or I have to do like X, Y, and dinners with the wife, whatever you have to do personal wise, just put that in your calendar first and then map out all of your dialing around that and to make sure you get the right amount of time in. Because if you just always plan on doing the dial time and then you never put in the fun stuff that you need to do anyways, you'll never get the full amount of 40, 60, 70 hours a week or whatever production you need to do for that week because you're only substituting or pulling away from what you need to pull away from. So it's like put the fun stuff in that you need to do first. And then if your schedule's full and you're like, hey, like I'm missing blocks here, then you can reallocate time somewhere else to be able to make sure that your goals hit. And when we looked at it backwards the other day, we were trying to find the average AP per writer. Because we were trying to figure out like what are they doing actually per week based on the submit, because the Discord was pulling everything. And we broke it down by number of presentations. I was watching the Ringbo live transfer video of you, and I was talking with another guy that was like trying it, and I was like, hey man, this is going to sound crazy, but let's break it down like this.
Was
And
that Tanner?
I was talking with Tanner, but I was also talking with this other guy on my team, and I was
Nice.
telling him, he was like, "Hey, man, and I know I'm taking a left-hand turn here, but he was like, "Hey, dude, like I spent $1,600 on leads for this live transfer stuff. I sold like five, and I did like 25. I did like 20 something presentations." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's look at the leads that you bought the week prior. Let's look how many presentations you did, how many dials you made, how many hours you were there, and how much you sold." He sold the same amount of premium, and we looked at the numbers, and it was about $25 per presentation. Is that what he was spending on the regular lead side? And I was like, okay, when we look at the numbers, you sold the same premium on less leads, less hours, and less presentations to have the same outcome. So even though it feels like you're doing less, you're doing the exact same thing. You're just doing it in a different model. So let's just scale this one up, because you're getting this. If you just use the same presentation use $25 per presentation is what it shook out to be honest with you. I was like, let's just bump the numbers up, and your AP should follow, right? So that's the same thing that when I talk about with new agents, they're like, hey, I want to do, 40 grand my first month. Okay, let's break it down by hour, by leads, by presentation, by dial. So you know exactly what you need to do to hit that. Because if you just throw the number on the board and you don't have a plan to get there, it's gonna feel sporadic and all over the place. But if you're like, hey, I'm gonna spend 1,000, I'm like, okay, if you're gonna spend 1,000, you're gonna sell like 4 to 6. Let's be realistic. You're not gonna sell like 10, 15, 20. Let's be realistic here. Like if you're just the average person, not accounting for anybody that's really good, if you're just average, you'll probably sell between somewhere in here. So if you're gonna spend 1,000, we know that you'll probably sell like 1 to 2 a day, which means that you'll probably make 400 calls, which means you'll probably talk to like 15 to 20 people per day, and you'll probably present on 7 to 10. You'll probably close one. And that's how we're going to break it down. So that way we have right expectations. So you're not burnt out mentally when you're trying so hard to hit 40, but you didn't spend the right amount of money on leads and you didn't work the right amount of hours.
Dude, that has always been. I mean, if Zach has a superpower, it's the expectation thing. It's been that way the entire time, and it's amazing to watch how that's duplicated in your organization because I can remember a conversation back a year after Zach started that was really similar to what you just said. Um,
He's good at
wow,
it.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, are you just pulling like the numbers off of the gateway every week and then looking who's where and figuring out who the top 20% is, and or is it just people there in the office? What do you do with people that are far away? You have teams all over the place.
Yeah, I have like probably 75% is virtual, but what I do is I take the Discord because it auto calculates all the submit. So I take the submit annualized premium, and I compare it to the issue paid report. So I know like where the disconnect of if there's missing business, or if someone said they submitted a bunch, or like what happened if like stuff's going to underwriting. So I can at least talk to them about like their sales process. And then what we do every single year right before convention is I'll do a one-on-one with everybody and just like set quarterly goals. I don't like to do like yearly goals because I find them incredibly hard to hit. So I like to do it like on a 90-day rolling 90 days, because I know for sure we're gonna do a lock-in every 90 days. And so that way, whenever everybody gets together every 90 days, I can follow up with everybody in person and go back through those goals again that we set either virtually or in person, depending on where they're located. And I break it down. I'll use Aletheus for example, because we just did a review on it like 2 days ago, or on Friday, whatever today is, and we broke it down by quarter. So we talked before convention, and I was like, hey, how many people do you have registered for convention? She's like 6, and I was like, I think we can easily make that 10, and I think your stretch goal should be 20, and she got 12 people there. Okay, so we're like, all right, check that. And I was like, all right, hey, you had 10 people issue pay a policy last month. I think you can add 4 more by the end of convention, or February 1st. And we went back and looked, and she was like, yeah, okay, we did that. And I was like, okay, were all those people tied to convention? She's like, yes. Okay, so great. We know that convention has a direct outcome in adding writers and increasing production. Boom. And then we're like, all right, so how do we increase your average per agent? Because your per agent was originally 6,000. We want to get it to at least 8 to 9,000 is what we want to get it to, because she's like around 100, 150. And I was like, okay, sounds good. How are we going to do that? And I was like, all right, well, you're going to call all of them today, and you're going to figure out how much they're spending per week on leads, and you're going to tell them all that they need to do at least $1,000 a week if they want to stay in the business long term, because if they don't, they're not going to stay in the business long term. And so we did that. Surprise, surprise. They all spent $1,000 a week on leads after that conversation because they didn't have the right expectations. So now that everybody's doing $1,000 a week on leads, we look at it again after 30 days. Boom, the average per agent actually went to $9,800 per agent, and her team went to 100 to 150. So I'm like, okay, well, that's an easy correlation. That's an easy way to tie that back together. And then I don't remember what the last one was. Oh, it was mostly personal about her, about like how much money she wants to keep per month and increase her bank account by. And I was like, you need to at least tie that so that way all the work you're doing is tied to a piece of money or a trip or something that you can reward yourself with. So that way your money, you feel like you're working hard, that you get a reward. And so now she's in California and Hawaii, and she just got proposed to today by another guy in the business. So I was like, okay, great. We've knocked out 100% of everything that we set aside for Q1 30 days before it ends. So we're on the right track. We're trending the right way. And I don't think that
Nice.
happened if she wasn't calling everybody every single week and doing the lead plans. I do think that's a very simple, easy task that everybody can implement today and make sure that someone's getting the right level of expectation to be able to get the outcome they want. And then two, the quarter thing is huge, because now I know that when everybody comes for the lock-in at the end of our quarter, that we can go back through it together in person and we can figure out what's going on. Because what I also realized from a recruiting piece is that everybody says, I want to go to $1 million a month, or I want to go to 300, or I want to go to 500, whatever the goal or watermark wants to be. But nobody has a real plan on how to do that. They just know that they need to sell a lot and recruit a lot. And
Mm.
that was me last year in January when we were at like 400 or 500 grand. I was like, we're gonna do 1 million, and I'm like, I don't really know how because I've never done it before. And I figured out that when you say that you're going to do a certain number and you take the average premium per rider, you realistically need to break it down into three categories. You need to break it down into how much does someone realistically do per week or per month, and also need to you need to figure out how many people you need to talk to people to be able to acquire one rider, and how many people you need to recruit, or how much ad spend needs to go out to acquire one rider, which then you can scale up, right? So for me, and I'll give my
Mm.
live CPAs, that equated to I need to spend enough money to where it cost me $5 to get one conversation on Instagram, to talk to one person, to get their phone number, to recruit them. And if I get 10 of those, which I get about 5 a day right now on about $20 a day, 5 to 10 a day, of actual leads for recruiting. And I know for sure I can at least get one recruit out of that. And if I recruit 10 people per week, I know I can at least get one writer per week. So if I'm going to hit a mill, I need to look at what I'm at right now. So if someone's at 150, for an example, and their average per writer is, let's say, 6 to 10 grand, somewhere in there, that gives you the actual numbers you need to work backwards so you can hit your mill mark or 500 a month mark. Because if you don't know how many people you need to recruit to get there, you're not going to get there. So that's what we did with Alethi. And we're like, hey, your goal is to be at 500 grand by June. You're at 150, you have 14 riders. So you know you need at least 38 riders to do 300. And then you probably need around 50 riders to do 500, depending on the person, right? Depending, you're gonna have a couple killers, you're gonna have some people that kind of drag their feet. So if you have 14 people, we know that we need to add like 4 new riders, 5 new riders a week or a month, depending on where you're at. And we need to scale that up, and we need to figure out how much it costs you to get each person. And then that way we can allocate proper funds that. So we know we have an actual recruiting budget. We know we have an actual lead budget. We know we have a marketing budget, or we know we have an office expense to be here. We know we have X, Y, and Z expenses. So that way all the money's allocated. So that way she can at least identify how much money she's keeping for herself, and that she knows what she needs to allocate for the business. So she's not blending the two together and everything feels like it's falling apart. And that's kind of like how I broke it down and how we went through it to be able to get her to where she's going, which she grew, like I said, like $50,000 in 30 days.
I love that. That's powerful. When you say you spend, $5 a person on Instagram or whatever, what is that process? Are you boosting posts? What is it that
Yeah.
you're doing exactly?
Yeah. So literally it's so simple. You're gonna laugh. I literally like walk in the office, I'll take a video of someone like closing, or a video of someone like writing the numbers up on the board, or a video of them hitting the gong, and I'll be like, hey, how much did you just make? How much did you spend on leads? What did you do to get that? Like, how many dials did you do, right? And like what do you do? Like a quick 30-second video of just like a quick bio of them. And I just spend like 10 bucks a day on it on Instagram, boost it. Facebook and Instagram, you can it's easy to boost it from your phone, but they charge you a bunch of Apple fees. So if you can do it from Ads Manager, you'll save yourself a ton of money, a little pro tip. But we literally just put like 10, 20 bucks a day on those ads, and Instagram messages are just flowing. And we just get Instagram messages. All I do, I pulled this book, this I got this from Sean. He sent me a few of these screenshots one day. All he did, because Sean gets these messages from people like, "Hey, I want to work with you," or "How do I get in your company?" Right? And all he does is say, "What's your cell phone number?" And that's it. And he screenshots it and sends it to me. And so it's like, I mean, if he's doing it, it's got to work, right? And so all I do is they click on the post. It says learn more. It takes them to my page. It automatically sends me a message. I reply back. I literally just did a hotkey. So I click A. It says, "What's your cell phone number?" I tap it. They send it to me within like 3 minutes. I screenshot it and I send it to the top producers. And that in the beginning, I was just calling them on myself and I was just recruiting them on myself. But I distro them out, and it's like kind of fun for everybody because sometimes now they'll be like, if I don't send someone, if someone's like not doing like what they're supposed to be doing for a few weeks, I just like won't send them anything. And then like Ben the other day texted me, he's like, "Did I get off the VIP list to get some recruiting leads?" And I was like, "Yeah, when you start selling over 30K a month again, you can have some." And it's kind of fun, but it also creates like some healthy competition because those are good leads. They work. Like people actually reached out to my personal Instagram, and
Yeah.
Alethea doesn't even have to boost hers. She literally just posts a thing and it goes viral like every single time, and she gets a ton of them.
Yep. Well, dude, she was the first one I saw that did the whole how much I made in a week selling life insurance. And now
Yeah,
everybody thinks it, but she started that.
yeah,
Just so everybody knows.
she's amazing.
Man, that's really powerful, Calvin. That's great. And is that how you got everybody recruiting with you? So they just kind of follow the Instagram strategy and boost the posts?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cheap. Like what is that, like 300-400 bucks a month? I mean, I think anybody could really afford that, and it's really not that difficult and it's not that deep, but well, this thing is really frustrating in the beginning, and I'm sure you probably went through the same thing. Is like you're wanting it so bad for everybody else, but like no, but they're not willing to like do any recruiting on their own outside of just like posting stories and stuff, which works to an extent. You're gonna get like the easy low-hanging fruit in the beginning, and then over time, after you've been doing it for a few years, you're gonna get the harder big players because they've been watching you for a long time. They see you're doing well. But like at a point, you're gonna have to start getting cold market to bring in their warm market so you can tap into it. And if people don't have a system to plug into, or if they don't have like a real guideline or guidance to go by, they're not going to really do anything because recruiting is like one of those things that like we talk about a lot, but like there's not really a plug and play system to say, "Hey, this is exactly what you need for the recruiting. Like do this, buy this, do this," right? And the easiest thing to do, what I found is be like, "Hey, go pull up your Instagram, post a post real quick about just post something. Like we got to figure out if it works for you or not. And like just spend $10, $5, whatever you can afford a day on boosting it. And let's see if anything comes in. If it doesn't come in, at least we can adjust it. But it's really not that you spend $5 on your freaking coffee. You can definitely spend $5 on Instagram to boost a post. So let's at least get
Hmm.
that ball rolling. And if it gets a few people a week, so be it. And we'll dial it in. But I would rather just get them to talking to one to two, three people, because they're probably gonna, just like a lead, they're probably gonna mess it up a few times. They're gonna over explain the business. They're gonna blow up their recruiting appointment, and they're gonna talk to someone for an hour that doesn't do anything, right? But I just want them to
Right.
start getting in the habits and like going
But they
through.
have to start. Yeah. Everybody has to go through that. You have to start. So,
Yeah. And so just getting
dude,
them to
that's
emotions and like just get that piece moving. So that way when we start like scaling it up, they already have like the repetitions down. They already got all the mess ups up. So that way they can handle the volume.
that just makes so much sense. Dude, if you were to, okay, let's say you just started over, like break down your day. What would it look like? You get to the office before Zach, you're new, but you know everything you know now. Like they took it all away, and you're like, okay, I'm going to beat Zach to the office and then take it from there. Like, what's that day look like for you?
Yeah. So don't tell them I said that either. They might get mad. Um, 8:30, I usually do like a staff meeting with my admins and anybody that's already here. So like I usually will do knock out like outstanding tasks that they send me from the night before, what I need them to do today. So that way they don't have to bug me the rest of the day. Cause like one thing I don't like dealing with in the middle of the day is like a bunch of questions from my assistant. I'd rather just like, "Hey, here's everything we need to do. Give me all of the questions you have for me. Let me answer them all now, and then like go do you for the rest of the day and get that stuff done." Because the last thing I want to be doing is answering like weird questions throughout the day. It just doesn't seem that productive to me. So I like to just do everything from like 8:30 to 9, just get that out of the way. And then around 9, I'll usually just, oh, right now, are you talking about as a new agent?
as a new agent? Well, both. Like, do either one. All this is good. You talk about whatever you want. This is great.
Okay. I'll just give you a quick rundown of what I do now, and then I'll tell you what I would do if I was brand new. So at like 9 o'clock, I'll like go into the bullpen and I'll like do a quick one-on-ones with individuals that I know that are up and coming in the business that like are showing up and buying leads. So I'll just do like one-on-one script training. I'll be like, hey, I usually tell them all to have at least 4 things to talk to me about in the morning, objection-wise that happened the day prior, so I can at least walk through with them what happened, and I can just do a quick one-on-one for 2 reasons. Number one, they know that I care and I know what I'm doing, so that way I can validate that they are here in the right place, like they're in the right place. And then the second reason is so I know what's going on in the organization. I can kind of identify like who needs help and why, and figure out like points of contingents of like or like breaking points or bottlenecks of like what we need to change. That's really the only reason why I do that. And then I just, go into the rest of my daily tasks for the rest of the day until, like 6 o'clock. But if I was brand new, what I would be doing honestly is I would find someone. If you're on Zoom, I would get in a Zoom room with like someone that's closing a high level off mute. But if I was in person or if I was near an office, I would absolutely, without a doubt, 110% go to the office. I don't care if they charge me money or not. I would get around somebody that is doing extremely well in this business, selling at least 30, 40 grand or more, because you never take advice from someone that's doing less than you. And I would literally probably just bug the shit out of them. I would sit next to them and I would listen to them and I would copy exactly what they're doing to a T. I wouldn't change anything. I'd be like, give me your lead plan, give me your script. I would literally just sit down and do exactly what someone else is already doing. And then I wouldn't change anything for at least 30 days. So that means I would buy $2,000 a week on leads, which I'm sure that person will tell you. I'll grab the script, which they're probably all the same with a few minor tweaks. And then I would buy whatever leads that they're buying, which they're all about the same. And I would literally just set aside from 8 a.m. to probably 8 p.m. because I know for sure I don't want to fail and I'm scared of failure. So I would make sure that I allocated an appropriate amount of time to learn a new skill, which is probably 12-hour days for your first 6 to 12 months, because that's what I had to do because I'm not very good. I literally did 12 hours a day, actually more. I did 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But if you're not crazy, do like 8 to 8. And I'll do that Monday through Saturday. Saturday is a non-negotiable. Everybody wants to do the Monday through Friday. They're like trying to like make this it's, dude, you got to do Monday through Saturday if you're brand new. If you want to kill it at a high level, you need to do Monday through Saturday in the beginning because you're learning something new. And I would do that for as long and as hard as possible. And every single year in the beginning, when I first got in the business, what I would do, because I knew that for sure I was going to take a few days off in December because it's my favorite month. I would always I would work 7 days a week in October to make up the difference. So like if you know for sure you're taking a trip or something's coming up, I just reallocated all that time. For me, I did it in 1 month. I don't know why I decided to do that month. I just picked October, September around that time to do it. But I would just work a literally 30 days straight and I would front load all of my production. So that way if I had like a week where I didn't work in December, like I already did the work prior. So I'm not trying to make up for it in the back side. So like every September, October, I would sell like 80K a month. So that way when December came and I sold like 30, it wasn't a big surprise because I still sold over 500. So like if you're brand new and you're starting day and like this is your first 60 days in the business, seriously audit your schedule and make a realistic schedule that you're willing to commit to, that there's going to be no excuses that you're going to fail or why it didn't work or whatever. Like you need something real. And I'm telling you, it's going to be Monday through Saturday from probably 8 to 8 for your first 90 days minimum. And you need to set aside a real budget for leads. Like you really do need leads. And it's going to cost you a minimum of $1,000 a week. And if your true goal is to make like to net 32,000, if you actually want to net $32,000 a month, you need to sell 40. And the only way to sell 40 is by spending 2K a week. So I'm like, okay, I can trade 8K for like 32K. Like that seems like a pretty good trade to me. I'll take that. Right. So if I was brand new, that's what I would do, honestly, Trey.
Dude, I love that. You know what's really interesting? And as you're talking, it's reminding me of this, but dude, like the biggest trap I've ever fallen into, and it all ties together with everything you said the whole time. But the biggest trap is like, dude, I run around trying to like corral people that really aren't willing to do it, and it's exhausting. But when you get around 20%, where you give them these standards and this is how it's done, and then they go about doing it, it's energizing. Because some people are sitting there going, well, I don't know how to do 12 hours a day. Well, it's because you're around the wrong people. If you're around a bunch of people that are doing 12 hours a day and everybody's getting results, it's really easy. It's not easy, but it's a lot easier to keep going.
Dude,
Um, dude, that's what I got from that. It's powerful.
when we this thing in the army that I never understood until I got out. I don't know why, but they always called it a task and purpose. So, hey, this is what we need to do. This is why we're doing it. And then they called it an AAR. And if you're in the military, you probably know what this means, after action review. So it's like,
Yeah.
hey, we're gonna dude, you were in the military, you know this. We're gonna
Yeah.
here's what we're doing today, which is we're gonna buy $2,000 of leads. We're gonna work 12 hours because we want to make at least 5 to 10 grand this week. And after we do that, we're going to have an after action review. So we're going to review all the stuff that went wrong, that went good, and then we're going to refine it. And we're going to do the same thing next week. We're not going to change anything but the bad stuff. We're going to keep all the good stuff. We're going to substitute the bad stuff. And we're going to do that every single week. And we're going to build off of it and build off of it and build off of it. And then sooner or later, it's going to be on autopilot, and it's a freaking machine. It's just moving on its own, you know? And I
Mm.
think after like my first 90 days, it was just like it just was clockwork. And I think that if you can get someone to do that for 6 days a week and for 90 days straight, it's it's unstoppable.
Mm. Amen to that. Well, this was amazing, Calvin. This is the best call we ever had. I don't even think we're going to do any more calls. We're just going to play this one every week. I mean, if you guys are really looking to build an agency and raise your standards and get people writing more and you start writing more, he covered all of that here. Like, I'm going to go listen to this one again. Um, Thanks for jumping on. If there's one last thing you want to leave everybody, uh, let us have it, and we'll talk to you the next round.
Yeah, guys. I mean, the last thing I'll leave you with is that you don't want to be sitting at convention next year saying, I wish, I hoped, and I would have if this and this happened. It all starts with today. And the good news is that we're early in the year. In my first year hitting Hall of Fame, I started in April and I wrote 500 something thousand. I don't even remember how much, over 500 grand. So it's not too late. The time is now, and this is the best business you'll ever be part of, and you're in the best team in the industry. So as long as you work, the system works, and I appreciate you having me on, Trey.
All right, thanks, Calvin. You guys make it a great week, and yeah, make sure we get this recording out and share it with everybody. This was a good one.
Thank
Talk to
you.
you all soon.